welcome. We are now going to talk with our student resource panel, and I'm going to turn it over to Christine Bowman, who is our moderator for this session. Enjoy.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm excited that you're here and to work with this fantastic group of colleagues who are here to answer questions from a student resource and support perspective. I serve as the Dean of Enrollment, and I will be your moderator today. And I would like to ask each of my colleagues to briefly introduce themselves, and then we will open our session up to questions that you may have. As a reminder, at the bottom or at the top of your page, you'll find a Q&A opportunity, and we welcome you to type questions after the individuals have introduced themselves so that we can share more about the Southwestern experience with you. Alex, will you start us off?
Hi, Alexandra Anderson here. I'm the Senior Associate Director at the Center for Career and Professional Development, which may sound like a long way off to you, but we are firmly of the mind that if you engage with us early and often, we can help you figure out what you want to do with your life and how you're going to get there and how to accrue all the necessary experiences along the way to be successful. Glad to have you here.
And now Jennifer Small.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jen Small. I'm the Associate Director of Academic Success, and I work with all our students with disabilities who need accommodations of any kind, whether that's in the classroom or in the residence halls. And I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Jennifer. Dave Seiler.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Dave Seiler. I'm the director of the Center for Academic Success. And have a little inside joke with CCPD of who gets to say early and often first. But we'd like to say that as well. We work with students as soon as they are admitted, working through SPROG, and then all the way through graduation with anything and everything that comes in between academically. Glad to have you here.
Stacy, welcome. Will you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Stacy. I am the nurse at the Counseling and Health Center.
And lastly, Jennifer Leach.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Leach. I am the Director of Advising and Retention here at Southwestern University, and I help students really in whatever way that I can. Most of my work is with making sure that students and faculty and staff have their resources to be able to advise students effectively, as well as making sure that students are getting connected to the resources they need in order to be successful at STU.
So we actually have what I call the Alpha to Omega team here today. This group will start working with you from before you even come here, and we'll work with you throughout your entire Southwestern career. And Jennifer, I'd like to start with you just a little bit. SPROG is one of the programs that your office engages with. If you could give us 3 exciting elements about SPROG that our new students should look forward to, or 3 things that they need to do in order to be prepared for SPROG, I think that'd be a great way for us to start.
Sure. Yes, so I help coordinate our SPROG New Student Orientation, which will be happening June 22nd to the 27th. It will be a 2-day experience that will be transitioned to the online environment. I would say in terms of one exciting thing that you'll be engaging with is with our orientation leaders. So we will have orientation leaders who will be connecting with you not only during that SPROG 2-day experience, but also throughout the rest of the summer in order to make sure that you're geared up and ready to go in the fall. In terms of a couple of things that you can do before you attend Sprague, make sure that you deposit, and then that way you'll be able to register and sign up for Sprague. We will be asking you to complete a new student questionnaire before coming to Sprague, because we're going to go ahead and pre-register you in a couple classes before you even attend Sprague. So we need to get some information from you in order to register you in those classes, so that way you're going to already be halfway there in terms of what courses that you're going to be taking in the fall. So again, one exciting thing, work with those orientation leaders, and then two things to do before attending Sprague is deposit and then take that new student questionnaire.
And Jennifer, before you go too far away, one of our students asked, is Sprague still happening?
Yes, it is most definitely still happening. Again, those dates are June 22nd to the 27th. And so there will be 2-day sessions. So 3 of those. So the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th, 27th. So do make sure you still sign up. Again, we'll be online now. We are still working out the details. And once we have all of that, we'll make sure to be sending that out to all of our students.
Great. Another question that we have, Jennifer, we have some students who had access to student services in their classrooms when they were in high school. What steps do they need to take in order to be able to utilize services once they get to Southwestern?
Sure. So essentially, students just need to reach out to me in some way. That can be through emailing me directly or calling me. But there's also an application that students can find on our website. So you can find the Services for Students with Disabilities through the Center for Academic Success webpage, and there's an application there where you can fill out more information about yourself, what accommodations you maybe have used in the past, what you think you're going to need at Southwestern, and you can also provide some documentation through that application, but you don't have to do that all at the same time. We can be flexible with sort of what order things come in. But overall, students need to let me know that they're interested in receiving services, and then we'll talk more about what kind of documentation they might need to provide, and then what reasonable accommodations might look like at the college level.
Stacy, if you could give us a little bit of insight into what Health and Counseling Services provides at Southwestern, what sort of costs are charged to the students, and what is the complete list of services that students might be able to experience?
All right. Well, our Counseling and Health Center is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We have 4 full-time counselors, and they offer counseling sessions for no charge to students. And our health center has a full-time nurse practitioner as well as myself working there. We also partner with a family practice doctor group in Georgetown, and they also spend a couple hours a week here helping us out. We do need you to bring your insurance card with you to your medical appointments because we will bill the insurance, but we won't collect any copays or any balances that you have. So essentially, you shouldn't have any out-of-pocket costs for your medical appointment. But if you do have lab or x-ray, that is billed separately. So there'll be a separate charge for that. Some medical appointments that you might make for yourself while you're here just include sick visits, or if you have a UTI or well woman exam. We do flu vaccines. So pretty much anything you would go to your family practice for, we can do here, with the exception of just a few things, which mostly are the allergy shots, medication for ADHD, and like stitches or sutures. So if you would need some of those services, we could, like I said, we work with that family practice group in Georgetown, and we can help set you up there.
And students, as a reminder, you need to submit your health records to the health center by June 1st if you have deposited to join us. That information is in your deposit packet in the checklist that is on your Jump Drive, and you can access all of that without having to go to the doctor. You'll be able to communicate with your physician and hopefully be able to remedy that without actually taking a trip to the doctor itself. All right, Dave, we have a question for you. I was an outstanding student in high school, but I think I might need some help when I get to college. What sort of services might I find in the Center for Academic Success?
That's a very good question. And I want to make it clear that the Center for Academic Success is just not for students who are in trouble. We want to be proactive. We want to work with students on a variety of different levels. While yes, we do work with students who are struggling, we also want to work with those students who are looking to maintain a high GPA, wanting to come out of the gate succeeding and excelling in their first semester and not working from behind. So we do offer things on time management, study skills, note-taking. We have a group of usually 7 to 8 students that work in our office that are called the peer academic mentors, and they'll do workshops along with the RAs in residential life and put on programs, usually one a month, to kind of hit the hot spots of what students need to be successful. Our primary goal is to work with first-year students because we want them to be able to make that adjustment to university life and college studies. So we do a lot of things that are kind of geared toward incoming students. So again, we want students to come in early and be proactive as opposed to reactive. So the main thing I think for incoming students to focus on is the time management, or what I call priority management part of college. Is learning how to make the adjustments to free time and having class, every other day or maybe not on Fridays, and how you still can be productive during those downtimes. So we welcome all students and not just students who are struggling.
Thank you, Dave. Stacy, I'm going to jump back to you for just a moment, and I have 2 questions. One, does the health center have referrals for dentists or orthodontists in the area that our students may be able to connect with? And second, when it comes to counseling services, can a student just walk in, or do they need to routinely schedule an appointment?
Let me answer the counseling question first. They can walk in, and if you do decide to just walk in, we'll definitely ask you some questions that'll help us understand how urgently you need to be seen. So if it is urgent, you would be able to see somebody right away. Otherwise, we really recommend calling ahead to schedule that appointment. And as far as the, you asked about the first question was,
It was about dental and orthodontic referrals or services in the area.
Okay, so we can help find a dentist in the area, but we don't have any, we don't work with a certain office, a dental office, but we could certainly help find one.
Thank you. Alex, you've been patiently waiting, and as Dave alluded to earlier, you all are the competitive for early and often as a pet phrase in your office, and I think it's very applicable for both of you. Can you tell me how CCPD, the Center for Career and Professional Development, begins working with students as early as in their freshman year to make sure they are successful in their Southwestern journey?
Yeah, thank you. We definitely see students even before they arrive, and you may have met some of us during prospective student visits. Certainly as early as the first week of class, we sponsor a session on student employment, because that is something that some students want to start or need to start right away, whether it's on campus or in the community. We also work with a number of first-year seminar classes to offer different modules. One of them is a self-assessment and career exploration module that a number of faculty invited us to work with them starting last year. We also have another one where we talk about high impact experiences, which you may have heard in some of your interactions throughout the admission process. But basically, what we know from employers is that they're most likely and most interested in hiring someone who's already done the same job before. So if you're graduating from college and you have no experience, that puts you at a disadvantage. So what do? You need to gain experience during the time that you're a college student. So by working a little bit each semester on building the necessary career readiness skills that employers seek and building up those actual experiences, testing the fit of different career fields, you are being marketable for employers, but most importantly for yourself, you're seeing what fits you, what careers you are interested in and which ones are interested in you back, meaning, where your skills really live and flourish. So we do a ton of programming throughout. We're actually still doing virtual programming right now, and we do lots and lots of one-on-one advising with students around all kinds of topics. How do you market yourself? Every opportunity you ever pursue, you'll have to talk to people, write about yourself in a tool like a resume. A lot of our students, usually a quarter to a third of our students, enter graduate and professional school immediately after graduating from Southwestern, and then even more beyond that. So a big chunk of work that we do in our office is helping people prepare for graduate study, which may sound super early to you right now, but certainly some fields like medicine require that you really are working on it throughout the time that you're a student. And so some of you may have visited with us on Monday when we talked about the resources that our office and others on campus help provide for that in particular. So hopefully that covers it a little bit. Lots of information and support in our area for internships, job shadowing, other ways that you get out there and really try on the fit of different career fields. And we'd love to talk with you more.
If I can go back to Dr. Leach, we have students that will have not worked with an advisor before. Can you describe what the advising relationship is like and how advisors are assigned?
So I'll start with how advisors are assigned. So earlier I mentioned the new student questionnaire that you'll take in order to help us be able to pre-register you for a couple classes. There's also some other information that we ask in there, and that is what I use in order to make those initial advising assignments. So here at Southwestern, we have a primarily faculty-based advising system. So that means the majority of the faculty that you'll be taking for classes are also folks who are advisors. And we really do try to match you up with an advisor in the major area that you're interested in. Do our best at that. But you are always welcome to change your advisor after that initial assignment is made. And one of the things that I always try to, explain to students about the differences with advisors, and then probably what you've experienced in high school with the high school counselors. A lot of times you get called to your counselor's office, and maybe sometimes that's a little scary. But with advising, your academic advisor is your partner throughout your entire academic journey. We are here to help support you and to guide you throughout, your courses and your entire time. I always say that it's not just about the picking of your classes, but really just to help you figure out, what are the right type of high impact experiences that you could be engaging in, really thinking of the timing of, when you should be looking at that internship, when you should be considering when to study abroad, what types of clubs and organizations you can be engaging in that are really going to help you, become that well-rounded person and be able to, go on to those future goals like graduate school or other careers. So really, again, I always tell all of my advisees that my catchphrase is always help me help you, and I can't help you if I don't know what it is that you need help with. And so, it's really important to be making that engagement, making that contact with your advisor throughout your time, so that we're able to help support you with whatever it is that you might be experiencing or things that you need assistance with. So, as opposed to having that relationship with a counselor where you're expecting them to have you come in, you really want to make sure to take that initiative to be reaching out to your advisor to make that connection with them and for them to be able to support you.
I'd like to welcome all of the students and parents that have maybe joined us a few moments late. We're in a very engaged conversation with members of our staff from a variety of different areas around the university. I also would like to encourage you to answer or ask any questions in the Q&A box. We have members from our Career and Professional Development Office, our Center for Academic Success, our individual who works with students with disabilities, our Health and Counseling Center services area, as well as our advising and retention area. So any questions that you might have, we welcome those in the Q&A box. Stacy, I'd like to go back to you for just a moment. Many times high school students have to store medicine in the nurse's office, and that is how it is distributed. Can you tell me a little bit about how medicines work in college and what students are responsible, or if anything needs to be stored within your area?
So we encourage and expect students to be managing and storing their own medications. So we don't store medications for students in the health center.
Great. Alex, if I wanted to earn an internship, do I work with my faculty, or is there a designated individual in your office that might be able to assist? When is it too early to have an internship, and can I have more than one?
That's a lot of questions. The short answer is you can start that conversation with anybody that makes sense to you. At some point, you're likely to be referred to our office. We do have a specific internship team, Dana and Craig, who help students brainstorm internship possibilities, connect them with examples of internships and internship employers that we already know about, and teach them how to fish, how to search for additional opportunities. If a student is interested in pursuing academic credit or actually funding for an internship, both of those are facilitated through our office, through our internship team. And so students would need to meet with Dana and Craig on those. And there are a number of group sessions as well where students go and get information and work on certain parts of that process in a group. And there was another question. I was trying really hard to remember all of them. Oh, when can you start and how many? You can start right away. I will say that we think of internships as really just like any other part of your career trajectory. There's going to be experiences you need to get before you can get other ones. And the same is true for internships. So we might call some internships more of a starter internship, and others like these big glamorous internships that probably are going to be more competitive, and therefore the candidates who are successful will have more experience under their belt already. So for example, our office helps facilitate students doing a full semester internship in New York City, where you work full time and get credit for that, a whole semester's worth of academic credit. Same with our London program and Washington, D.C. programs where you can do internships. And so those are kind of big organizations a lot of times, or sort of high profile organizations, and ones that typically not a first year student would be doing. However, more local organizations, smaller organizations, those can be great starter internships. We do want you to get your feet on the ground solidly first. We want you to settle in, make friends, be doing well in your classes, and just really have sort of the day-to-day life figured out. So most students aren't applying for internships their first semester or conducting them, but possibly by second semester, definitely by the second year of school, maybe after the first year in that summer. Wouldn't be too early. And it's reasonable to do more than one internship. In fact, the national norm is that most students do at least one, and more students increasingly are doing more than one. We collect data from new grads every year, and I think the highest number I've ever seen is like 7, maybe 8. Somebody was a super go-getter in terms of internships, but I think 2 to 3 is becoming more normal for sure. Oh, can I just add one other thing? Sorry. The word internship is super broad and it really varies on industry as to whether what you do is actually labeled an internship. So I work with a lot of pre-health students. There are not pre-health internships. By and large, no. You have to be a licensed somebody or other to actually practice, right? However, it's very common for students to do shadowing, and volunteering in ways that support their candidacy for health professions schools. In science, like laboratory science, doing research is basically an internship. If you're a teacher or want to be a teacher, you're going to be doing student teaching and field-based observation. So the name might be different, but the act of gaining experience is the same.
Thank you, Alex. I'd like to throw this one both to Dave Seiler and Jennifer Leach. We often have students that either are undecided when they join the community or go through a little bit of an evolution in their academic journey. They think they're going to start out in one area, and as they continue on, they wind up studying, making a transition and studying in a second area. How do each of your offices support either the undecided or the transitioning student when it comes to their academic journey?
I'll let Jennifer go ahead and go first and address that.
Thank you. So I think that, you know, the way that I've really approached those types of conversations is a lot in collaboration with CCPD. They do, you know, as Alex mentioned, they do have a assessment that really looks at some of that exploration piece, really helping students to think about, you know, what are their interests? What are some of their skills, their values? How do those different types of things maybe align to certain types of careers? And then kind of working backward from there. One of the things that, you know, Alex and her team will also say is, you know, that major doesn't always equal career. And so it's really important to think about, okay, well, that might be a career that you might be working toward, but what major is going to help you, you know, really get there? You know, one of the questions that I like to ask students now, instead of what do you want to be when you grow up, because that just seems like a really big question, is what kind of problems do you want to solve? And thinking about then what type of lens do you want to solve those problems through? So a lot of folks are interested in things like healthcare or environmental issues. You know, those are really big types of problems, but in like what type of sector do you see yourself maybe addressing some of those issues? Is it more from a public health standpoint as opposed to a more, you know, individual practitioner standpoint? Is it more from a conservation standpoint as opposed to, you know, maybe a more policy standpoint in terms of like, you know, environmental policy? So really thinking about that. And so those are conversations that I have with students myself, and as well as, you know, a lot of my work with advisors is providing them with resources and tools. And we do a lot of workshops on having these types of conversations with students, and what are the you know, best questions to kind of ask, and what are the best resources to be able to provide to students to continue those conversations.
I think the only thing I would add is we work with a large population of students, but it seems like the two main areas we work with are students who are pre-med for one reason or another, and then students who are undecided. And for the students who are undecided, or as we term it, exploring, we're looking at, you know, what are students successful in and why? To ask the students, you know, as they come in and meet with us and they're looking at their GPA and their grades, is to ask them, why have you been successful in this class? Is it something that matches up with the way you process information? Or is it because you are passionate about the subject matter? We see students oftentimes who are completely undecided to take a class in their first semester or in their first year, and all of a sudden the light goes on. They found their passion, they found something to interest them. And then I think we begin the journey of communicating to them to talk with CCPD, to not be limited to just a major. Look at a major or minor, look at major combinations, look at the end goal as well as just, you know, a single class. So I think we look at the big picture, and oftentimes for first-year students, they're so focused on the one class, the one grade, that we have to remind them that, you know, it's a journey, and that, you know, it's 8 semesters, usually 4 classes at a time, and they're going to have some hiccups along the way, but it's about getting to that end path, and having success and enjoying the process along the way.
And if I can just add a little bit to that, since Dave mentioned, you know, the 4 classes each semester, just to kind of talk a little bit about curriculum. You've probably been in other sessions, I know, where different faculty have talked about curriculum. But we have a general education curriculum that is really very flexible. There are certain categories of courses that you have to take. You have to take humanities, natural science, social science, fine arts. But what you take within those buckets is quite, there's a lot of variety. And so taking those classes as a way to learn and explore, you know, what type of things might be a good fit, is a really great, you know, experience, in that we're not locking you into like everybody has to take US history or everybody has to take, you know, Texas government. You get to, you know, kind of have choice, and that helps you to do that exploration. And I always tell students, you know, okay, you take the class, you might not like it, you still have credit for it. It's still something that works towards your degree plan, and something that, you know, you need, even if it's not a specific type of class that maybe you wanted to take. Another part of our curriculum is that generally many of our students have to take quite a few elective courses, which are things that don't fill into any other bucket, a major or minor general education bucket. And so, as I always like to remind students, everything that you take is going to fill some bucket. It's going to go toward graduation requirements. And again, it's part of that learning experience and part of that journey. Just like with, as Alex was saying about internships, you know, you do internships. Sometimes they're that starter internship to recognize it's something that you don't like. And that's the same, you know, that with some classes, like you took a class, maybe it was something that didn't work out, or you know, a major that you were thinking of and it didn't work out, but you still had that experience. And now you know that it's something that you might not like and don't have to keep taking more classes in.
I'll just add real quick. Thank you, Jenna, for mentioning that. That just raises a question, or another reason why we're thinking about the long-term goals that you have, and starting with that early is good, because something that you may have thought for a long time interests you. You go out there and you actually engage with it and discover you don't actually like it. And now you need time to pivot from that and still build marketable experience in a field, a different field. And sometimes it takes a couple of those pivots until you find something that you want to really latch onto and try first. And certainly I'll just finish with saying that, you know, we believe that our diverse, smart, liberal arts students are likely to be interested in lots of different areas, both as students and in the future. So we're not talking about, just like with major, you're not locked into only studying one thing. Same for career. You're not choosing a career that you're going to do for the next 30 years, but you're rather figuring out, well, general idea of what you want to try, or what many things that you want to try, and in what order.
Thank you. We had a question from the audience. And I think this is best for Jennifer Small. I have a service animal at home. Can I bring my service animal to Southwestern, and what do I need to do to prepare for this transition?
Yes. So yes, you are welcome to bring your service animal to campus. So just to clarify very quickly, there are these terms that get interchanged but actually mean very different things. So when you say service animal, I'm thinking service dog, defined by the ADA as an animal that is specifically trained to do work or tasks on behalf of an individual with a disability. And so under the ADA, a service dog needs to be allowed to go in the same places that the rest of the public is able to go into. And so, yes, you would be able, and of course be allowed, to bring your service dog with you to campus. You would need, it would be helpful if you could give us some advance notice, because it could have an impact on housing. For example, if someone is allergic to dogs or has a phobia of dogs, it probably wouldn't be great for us to like match you up as roommates, or how much space you're going to need. And then it's also helpful for me to be able to give some kind of notification to faculty that, hey, a service dog is going to be coming to class with this student. Here's what that means. Here's what the expectations are. I will add that another type of animal that sometimes gets called a service animal, but is actually something different, is what's called an emotional support animal. And so that has to do with more with housing. That is, emotional support animals are protected by fair housing law. And so we do have emotional support animals on campus, but there is a process that students need to go through in order to be approved to bring an emotional support animal onto campus, because otherwise pets are not allowed on campus. So again, just like any other accommodation, that student can reach out to me, and then I can get them the information that they would need and explain the process that they'd need to go through in order to be able to bring an emotional support animal to campus.
As a reminder to our audience, we welcome your questions in the Q&A box if you have any. The next question I'd actually like to rotate around to the entire group. You all are a great group of colleagues who support students in a variety of ways. If you could give one bit of advice for the transition from high school to joining the Southwestern community and being a successful individual at Southwestern, what would that mean? In our last session, we heard from some of our students who gave great advice, but you all are great helpers, and I would love to hear what your advice for a successful transition and success would be. Alex, could we start with you?
Choose me first. No. So one thought that comes to mind is sleep. I worked in the residence halls for 11 years prior to coming into career development. And from even thinking back to my very own experience, that was a big challenge to get enough sleep. And it sounds kind of silly, but maybe you're getting a taste of this right now. I know my junior high student is managing your time when everything is totally flexible all of a sudden. And it can be really reasonable to be up till 3 in the morning. And then all of a sudden, oh goodness, I have to get up and go to class. So it's kind of cheesy, but really those like sort of life management skills, I think that's going to be super important. I think my other thing that I would say is community. Whatever that looks like for you, one of the things I love most about my long tenure here at Southwestern is the community of my colleagues and every year the students. And that connection that you form, whether it's with your roommate or with a student organization or a professor, an athletic group, et cetera, that's going to be what grounds you in your college experience. And the sooner that you can explore and put yourself out there a little bit and meet people and find your people, that's gonna, I think, really connect you to your college experience and give you that soft landing spot when you're having a hard day. So I don't know if that's really where you were going, Christine, but that's a couple pieces for me.
Jennifer Small, would you go next?
Yes, it's hard for me to pick just one thing, but I think what I would say is, yeah, the transition from high school to college, like Alex was mentioning, you might be experiencing this a bit now because, you know, typically you wake up, you go to school, you have to be there by a certain time, then you have these classes that maybe you get to choose, maybe not. You just go from one to the other until a certain time in the afternoon. Maybe you do some things after school, and then you come home and do some homework, eat dinner, go to bed, then you wake up and do the same thing the next day. And it becomes this sort of automatic, very routine kind of thing. And college can become have a routine to it. It's just going to be very different. So I always recommend to students, use the time during the day that you have open. Do not wait until after you eat dinner to start all your work. You will not be able to get it done. So you will have time in between classes or before classes. Use that time. And if you need help kind of figure out how to use that time, you just come to the Center for Academic Success. One of us or one of the peer academic mentors can help you with that.
How about Stacy? What advice would you share with students from your perspective?
Well, I would say you are now your own health advocate, and usually this might be the first time in your life where you're going to have to call an office to make your health appointment. I'd say don't be afraid to do that. We do get parents calling us to try to make appointments for their students, and well, can't do that anymore. So don't be afraid to call the health center, make an appointment. We will answer all your questions. A second piece of advice is to be mindful of your decisions. So be mindful of your sleep. Be mindful of what you're eating and when you're eating it. Be mindful of how you're going to spend your time. And my last piece of advice is bring a thermometer.
Dave, will you provide some insight from your experience?
I think for me, one of the single most important things that a new student can do is learn to ask questions, to be your own advocate. You're going to be on your own now. You need to be independent. You need to be responsible. And you need to learn that we are here as a campus to help you. That's why we're here. I call it job security. If you don't come ask me questions, then I don't have a job. So we want students to come and see us. You know, we like working with our colleagues, but we like working with students more. So make sure that you are using your faculty as an individual resource, office hours. Make sure you are going to tutoring opportunities, whether it's through the department or peer academic mentors, whoever. But you need to learn to find your voice and be your own best advocate. You can't be shy about asking questions. The worst thing that happens that I've heard is somebody says, I don't know, but let me find out who can help you with that and get you to the right person. You know, I like to say that when you get to college, I don't know and nobody told me, don't count anymore. Surely somebody can help you, whether you start with your RA, you start with a peer academic mentor. I think you just need to be comfortable with asking questions and helping yourself. You have to be able to help yourself through this journey.
Great advice. Jennifer, round us up and share some wisdom from your Southwestern experience and working with students.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, I had some in my head, but everybody took them all. Because definitely that asking questions, seeking help is a big one. As Dave said, the reason why we have jobs is because of students. And so that's, you know, we chose to go into the professions that we did, and specifically to work at a university because we love students and want to help. But I would say in addition to that, and I know that this is really hard to hear as a young person, and we all, you know, were there at one point and probably did the same, is as much as you can to avoid comparing yourself to your peers and to your friends. You know, I hear a lot of times from students like, well, you know, I stayed up until 3 o'clock, you know, cramming for this exam and I got a B. My friend didn't do anything and made an A. Sometimes I've told some of my friends, I'm like, yeah, your friend's a liar, because sometimes I know that to be true. But also that, you know, we all have our strengths and things that we know we need to be better at. And that for each of us, our journey is very different. And so it's important to think about, you know, what are you bringing to the table? What are the experiences that you've had and how those have impacted you as a student, as a learner, as a person in this world, and really, you know, try to figure out what it is that you can be doing to be better, and not thinking about, well, this other person did it this way, so I can obviously do it the same way, or all of my friends are, you know, wanting to go pre-med, but I'm wanting to do political science. Like, that makes me a loser in some way. Like, that's not the case. You have, you know, we all have our different set of skills and our different set of interests, and it's important to you know, like everybody has said as well, to find those people that will help support you in that. I'm going to steal a term that Alex has used before that I think she borrowed from some other colleagues, is finding your own board of directors. You know, those people that are in your corner, you know, if that's your RA, your coach, your, you know, your wind ensemble, like, conductor, like, you know, all those people that are your people that you know that you can reach out to when you need support. And the last thing is, and I know it's really hard because I know it's like really old school, but check your email, check your email, check your email. We do all send a lot of emails. It's our way of communicating with our students and with each other. And so do be checking those emails to make sure you're not missing important deadlines or important processes or things that are coming up. So, yeah.
Thanks to everyone. We have been talking about taking care of the students in the transition, but it's also important to recognize that the parents have a pretty significant transition that they will go through as well. And we had a question from the audience that was asking, and maybe we can also educate broadly here, parents have to get permission from their students to access information. Is there any information parents cannot have access to? As a parent of a high school student, I know I can see grades almost instantaneously, and the world is very different in college. Dave, would you like to start us off and talk a little bit about FERPA and then what parents do and don't have access to?
Sure, and I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to go through this in enough depth, but you know, with FERPA, students are able to allow the registrar through a signed form to be able to send grades home at the end of the semester. That's the extent right now of the FERPA release. So if a parent were to call my office and ask how their student is doing, I could not tell them unless I had something from the student that gave me permission to share information with that specific individual. In the meantime, I would then have to contact the faculty member, gather that information, and get it to the parent. I think in most cases, we want to encourage students to gather that information and share that directly with the parent. And not many cases at all do faculty, advisors, and most staff communicate directly with parents. We want to encourage the student to be responsible and independent in gathering that information. It's not that we don't want to share it, but we want to create an individual who can be resourceful and speak on their own and get that information and then talk with their parents. Again, I think it's a tricky thing to do. And it's not, again, that we don't want to share that information. We just want to create a culture where the communication is going in the right ways. And oftentimes it's just that we don't have the information. You know, as Christine mentioned, there is that information pipeline in high school. And I admit that I was a junkie every day when my daughter was in high school. But there is no such thing at Southwestern. I cannot go on and see what students' grades are on a daily basis, or if they turned in assignments. I have to do an inquiry. Or I have to find out from a faculty member, unfortunately, if a student is struggling. So again, it's just a matter of getting the right paperwork in line and then sharing that information in the right direction.
I will say that in terms of information that we can share, it can be very general. And I find most of the time when I'm speaking with parents that general information is helpful. and or can help the parent be able to then go and ask their student the questions to make sure that they're getting the information and then passing it along to the parent. You know, there's a lot of information that we share with students, like I mentioned, that check your email. A lot of that information is not about specific student records. It's kind of, general information like registration dates and things like that, which parents can find as well on many of our websites. So I think it's always important, and I know it's one of the pieces that is shared during parent orientation, but it's also accessible online at any point, is the academic calendar. Having a copy of that and knowing what dates certain things are, so that way, you can be checking in with your student to be like, hey, I know that registration is around this time, or the drop deadline is this time. Is that something that you're thinking about? Have you talked to your advisor about it? Are you reaching out to your professors? So that way, as a parent, you can be equipped with the type of questions that if you're not hearing from your student, what you can be kind of helping to guide your student to be thinking about. And many of us also, I think, actually, most of us all contribute to the parent newsletter that Parent Relations creates and sends out. So, make sure that you're seeing all the information from us. I always include in there that, hey, it's advising time. So, make sure that your student's making their advising appointment. And Dave usually puts in there about information on when the deadlines for dropping is and things like that. So that's also a really great resource for parents to kind of be aware of what's happening and what questions they can be asking their student.
And I'll make one more plug in conclusion. There is a session that Jennifer Leach hosts during SPROG in regard to academics and student and parent engagement. And there will be a session in SPROG in regard to the financial side of college and the student and parent engagement. So I look forward to having you all continue learning and growing in this part of the journey once you engage with us during SPROG orientation. I want to thank our panelists. The hour has quickly come up, and I know we like to provide a transition so that you can take a small break, and we're excited to share that our next panel will be a group of students. So student to student elements of growing and learning and getting the straight student perspective. Thank you to everyone for your time for the last hour, and we'll look forward to having you join us on campus this fall. Thank you. Laura, it's back to you.
Thank you, Christine. And yes, we will have a short intermission, and then we will have our current students talking to you. So please make sure that you're using the Q&A button to ask them questions. We look forward to seeing you back here real soon.